So let's talk about the real science of manifestation. And while there are several theories, the string theory, which was superseded by the superstring theory, and whatever else you might have heard about, there are two that are the most popular. And I try to stay abreast of quantum physics and listen and follow to physicists and read the scientific journals. There's two primary theories on how manifestation works. And then there's a third one that a lot of people say is science, but it's really an adaptation of the other two, okay? So the first one is based on the Copenhagen theory. It is the principle of what we focus on expands, but it's the science behind it. And if you know anything about the double slit experiment, then you understand that particles and waves are constantly dancing back and forth, turning into each other without any rhyme or reason. And the only rhyme and reason that has been found to date in numerous repeatable studies is the fact of what the person who was observing expected to find. So the observer effect. This is why, and I really want you to get this, this is why when they do double-blind studies, have you heard that expression? For a new pharmaceutical or a new antidepressant or whatever kind of study, you'll hear the term double-blind. What does that mean? It means that the people that are conducting the experiment are also blind to the circumstances. They don't know which is the control group and which is the placebo group and which is the real medication group. Why? Because of the observer effect. Because if I'm a scientist and I want, or a doctor, and I want this new medicine to work, and I'm giving half the room a sugar pill, a placebo, and the other half of the room my medicine, and then, oops, now we have 3/2 of a room, and then another portion of the room, so it would be a third, because you have to have a control group, giving them nothing at all. My hope, my expectation, my intention as a medical practitioner or a scientist would be that my medicine made the greatest impact. And just by me expecting that, it could happen. If that doesn't prove mind over matter, I don't know what is. Just like when doctors say, well, it's just the placebo effect. Oh, so you're telling me that this patient cured themselves by their mind alone, and you don't think that's significant? Anyway, the observer effect is based on the Copenhagen principle that says we collapse waves into particles based on what we're focusing on. The key word there is focus, what we're focusing on. So that is a very powerful science-based theory on how manifestation works. I'm focusing on this. So through my focus, through my attention and intention, I'm collapsing waves and turning them into particles. My circumstances that I want to manifest, the people that I want to manifest, the opportunities that I want to bring into my life. That's the observer effect based on the Copenhagen theory. That's number one. Number two, I think it was 1964 or 67, sorry. A physicist named Hugh Everett created the many worlds theory, which is usually just shorthand MWT for many worlds theory. And in that theory, what Everett's supposition is that every single time a decision is made, there is an alternate decision that a part of you could have gone in that direction. It's another way to look at parallel universes. So like I'm sitting here doing this video for you today, but another version of me could be sitting on my boat right now. And so with Hugh's theory, which my understanding is that it ferrets out math-wise, but it seems to me if that's true, we're going to have billions and billions and billions of universes, and that could be true. I don't think in my lifetime that will ever be discovered, and it would be, can you imagine? It would be infinite. But that's the many worlds theory, which is based on parallel universes. Now, the third one that you've probably heard is an adaptation, and it's what we call quantum jumping or jumping timelines. And I actually teach from that as well. Jumping timelines is where it's loosely the many worlds theory, because it's saying there is a timeline right now where you have the big house, all the cars, you know, the cabana boy, whatever it is that you want. There is a timeline where that's occurring. Your job is to become coherent with that timeline so that you can be in it, on it. Now, in my opinion, the observer effect, which we know the science is solid on that, it's what we focus on. And in my opinion, the timeline jumping is basically saying you've already focused on it to expand it. Now let's get your heart and your emotions and your biology on the same page, in alignment with it. And so that's where embodiment comes in. So what does that boil down to? Focus and frequency. Frequency is always your emotions. It's your expansiveness. And your focus is what you're focusing on. It's what you're thinking about. It's what you're talking about. It's what you're, you know, working on when you're driving or taking a shower. You're not reminiscing. You're not worrying. You're not, oh, I shouldn't have never said that. You're focusing on what you want, and you're feeling as if you already have it. And the feeling as if you already have it is when you enter that timeline, or you jump into that world, that mini worlds theory, whichever of those apply. I personally think it's two sides to the same coin, because focus and frequency absolutely go together. And think about this, riddle me this, Batman. If the observer effect is true, then this theory of mine is going to be true too, because I believe what you focus on, you bring more of, and I believe that what you feel, you step into. So that makes the observer effect one side of the coin and the many worlds theory the other side of the coin, right? Isn't that kind of how it ferrets out? So your mission then, should you choose to accept it, is to understand that your focus and your frequency reign supreme. There is nothing more important when it comes to manifestation. And now you just heard the science of it is valid, right? And it doesn't matter if someone says, let's just dump timelines, and you're like, well, that's not really science. It doesn't matter. It's the same idea. It's just been adapted by the metaphysical community because it makes sense. It makes sense. So there are parallel universes. And I guarantee you right now, there is a parallel universe of you living your best life, having everything that you want. But we have to understand that even having everything that we want, there's got to be a learning process, and there's got to be a journey. So I think a lot of people come into the manifestation space thinking that, okay, I'm going to focus the observer effect on what I want, on the outcome I want. I want this big, beautiful business, and I'm going to make sure that I have the emotion of already having it, that joyful, grateful emotion all the time. So focus and frequency are in alignment with the outcome I want to create. And when I'm doing this, opportunities and people and situations and what seems like miracles. Is it a miracle? Did I collapse a wave and produce that wonderful new client? Or by focusing on it, well, that would be focusing on it. Or did I just imagine it in my body to such an extent that I was in alignment and then it came to me? Does it matter which one? It really doesn't, does it? Focus and frequency. If we can just remember that. But here's what I want to say. Even when you do that, and I have seen miracles. I have seen people jump out of wheelchairs. I have seen people go back to the doctor after a few sessions, and then they're like, they can't find it on the test. You know, really fantastic things. And I've seen other coaches like Joe Dispenza have amazing results, and Dr. Demartini, amazing results. In fact, lots of naturopaths can get really amazing results. And I'm not a naturopath, by the way. But with that said, our life isn't over. It's not like we ever get there. You know, we think that when I have that big company, or when I have all my debt paid off, or when I have the love of my life, or when I have millions in the bank, then I've got it all. But it doesn't work like that. Life is meant to be lived. And living, and I believe this to be true, and I used to not always believe this. In fact, if you would have said this to me 5 years ago, I would have been like, what? But I believe it's true that everything that bumps up against us is our opportunity to see the other side of it. There's always something to be grateful for. And everything that we get super excited about, there's always a drawback to it. So finding that balance, and this, it's really it's almost a lot of Buddhism, and I'm not a Buddhist, but I know enough about it to understand that it's all about, let's not get too excited, and let's not get too depressed. Let's just have this equanimity of being centered and grounded and finding gratitude in the moment, in the present moment, because nothing is, you think something's bad and then you get all wigged out about it. Nothing is really bad. And Dr. Demartini always says, it's not in the way, it's on the way. And I love that. I love that so much. So with that being said, understand that you can scientifically proven, you can manifest whatever it is you want, but part of the journey there is the thing, and everything that seems like it's stopping you is really helping you shift and navigate. And even when you get there, there's going to be somewhere else to go. And when there's nowhere else to go is when you leave the earth. Who wants that? So you have to keep going and going and going, and there's always going to be new obstacles. Tony Robbins said, good Lord, it was 30 years ago. He said, people think when they get rich, all the problems go away. You just get bigger problems. As you open for more wealth, more abundance, more power, more fame, you have a bigger container. And so the challenges that come along, it used to be $1,000 bill. Oh no, now it's like a $30,000 bill. Oh no, but it's all relative. So don't wish all your problems would go away. Manifest what you want and be grateful for wherever you are. And when a challenge does come along, embrace it, lean into it, find the gratitude in it as fast as you can, because that's when everything changes. So hopefully you found this helpful. I hope you have a beautiful day, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye for now.